Hello everyone, welcome to another video talking geeky stuff with me, Tenji. Today's video is about Donnie Yen, one of the great martial arts actors out there currently. So with Donnie Yen, he's one of my favorites, but to be honest with you, I have only become more of a fan of his in the last, I would say, 10, 12 years. I've always kind of noticed him back in the mid 80s to the 90s, but I was never really a big fan of his like I am now. I've always noticed him because of his martial art style, very distinctive and very modern and somewhat quite realistic as well. I mean, if anybody watched my previous videos where I focus on actors like, say, Jackie Chan, and I talked about other people as well. So let me explain a bit. So I first kind of saw Donnie Yen in The Drunken Tai Chi, with directed by Yong Wu-ping. Yong Wu-ping, the action director of The Matrix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Once Upon a Time in China. I think he does a lot of kind of that kind of stuff. And Yong Wu-ping trying to bring him up as a superstar because Donnie Yen's a great martial artist, right? But the problem was, at that time, see, Donnie Yen, he's noticeable because of his martial art style. He has a very distinctive style. But the problem about Donnie Yen was he wasn't the best actor at that time. He's improved a lot, don't get me wrong. I mean, when it comes to acting, I would say he's good, but not amazing. There's a lot more better actors out there than he is. So he's always kind of falling short because at that time, the cinema martial art landscape was kind of dominated by Jackie Chan and his brothers like Sammo Hung, Yan Biao, and then you had the kind of action gunplay dominated by Chow Yun-fat, and even later 80s you had kind of up and coming actors like Andy Lau was in there, Tony Leung was coming in, and when it comes to acting, you were kind of behind Tony Leung, Andy Lau. When it comes down to martial arts, I think that Jackie Chan captivated the audience with his kind of comedy, I would say. Comedy action, because a lot of people, well, Jackie Chan's comedy action was quite new. And then, of course, you had the Yan Biao, his style, and Sammo Hung, his style. And especially when they teamed up as the three brothers, they were amazing to watch. So he kind of fell short behind those. And then come later in the he did a few TV shows, which are great, by the way, but he was never destined to be a TV actor, to be honest. I think he always wanted to be that kind of movie star. And then come late 80s, early 90s, and you had Jet Li. Jet Li came. And Jet Li's now, of course, he made it big doing the Once Upon a Time series. Because Jet Li before that he did like Kung Fu Shaolin Kid, which made him famous when he was a teenager. And I think that Donnie Yen kind of fell short again because at that time in cinema, Jackie Chan's kind of style started to kind of fade a bit, and Hong Kong, China cinema was kind of wanting a new style of martial arts, kind of more tradition. And then when Jet Li came in with when he did Once Upon a Time China, the legendary martial artist in Canton, Wong Fei Hung, he kind of gave this new traditional style of martial art, very stylized, very traditional, but at the same time somewhat modern at the same time, and he captivated the audience with that style. And then, of course, typical movie industry, once that got big, every kind of did that kind of period drama that was set in the Qing Dynasty with all these kind of folk heroes and stuff. And yeah, and then of course Jet Li made a whole bunch of Once Upon a Time Once Upon a Time in China. And of course, here's some movies that I put, for example, like Tiger Cage. He's a support role, but I felt that he actually stole the show because his martial arts was really good, and the director was gracious enough to give him a really good segment in that the middle of the film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And then he did Tiger Cage 2, which had nothing to do with the first movies. I mean, you know, Hong Kong cinema, you know that sequel doesn't mean it's the same character or the same story. It's just a name, really. And that time he starred in Tiger Cage 2, directed by Yong Ping. And again, martial art was fantastic. Loved that kind of modern look. But also he kind of fell short because as good he is martial arts, he still lacked the kind of charisma on screen that Jet Li had, and Jackie Chan had, Chow Yun Fat, even Chao Xing Chi. They all had that charisma that Donnie Yen didn't. In that way, I think he was slowly building up to it. But I was still a fan of his. I wouldn't say a big fan, but still a fan because, like I mentioned multiple times, that his martial arts is very stylized. But that time, I think that he played his role, so to speak. Like he was a good supporting role. He was a good villain. I mean, look at Once Upon a Time in China, the fight at the end with Jet Li. That was fantastic. I felt that he stole the fight scenes with Jet Li. As good as Jet Li was, Donnie Yen actually stole that show. I think he kind of worked that way. He kind of built his profile up, playing supporting roles and stealing the show just to some extent. Just like in Dragon Inn, you know, he played the main bad guy in that, and he actually plays a very good bad guy, very menacing. Because if you know Donnie Yen, he's a tough guy. His martial arts, he's one of the best. So when he plays the bad guy, and it takes multiple people to defeat him, it's believable because he's that good. Then he started doing. I think a lot of producers, directors really wanted him to be the next Jet Li or maybe a competitor to Jet Li. So they asked him to do things like Iron Monkey, loads of those kind of films. But I think in a way, after that, he kind of made a whole bunch of crappy movies that he starred in, and you can see he just phoned it in. He wasn't there. He didn't bother acting. He just probably just took a paycheck. You can clearly see that in his movies. I think there was a time he took a break, and I think he had. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but his comeback timing was good because at that time, say 10, 12 years ago, you had Jackie Chan slowly falling down a bit, making crappy Hollywood movies. Jet Li's kind of same thing, went to Hollywood again, which ruined him a little bit. And he was, Sammo kind of retired from the behind the scenes. Young Bill never made it that big. So Stephen Chow kind of got into directing. All these actors, action directors, kind of look to Donnie Yen as a new person. He came back. He kind of did what he was good at, kind of more modern martial arts. And then I remember watching SPL, or in the UK it's called Killzone. And he, those films really never challenge his acting ability, really. They kind of play to his strength. Kind of a straight person, no comedy bit here and there. Just straight down the line, no amazing acting, just decent, go in there and kick ass. That's what people want to see Donnie Yen for. And I gotta tell you, man, the last half of SPL or Killzone is fantastic because it was almost like two final fights. The fight with Wu Jing in the alleyway, and then straight afterwards the final fight with Sammo. Oh, amazing! And of course, a Flashpoint, which was the same character, but it was more a sequel. And the fight at the end as well, man, he uses it. He incorporated MMA martial arts in it, which had become his staple. And that's when I went, oh, okay. I'm starting to, really like Donnie Yen because he's playing to his strengths. No dramatic scene, no amazing acting, just solid, straightforward, kick-ass action movie. Don't need no brain to really follow it. Just that's what he's good at, and gives it that martial arts style, which I think is kind of reinvigorated the martial arts scene, because martial arts, especially in Hong Kong in a way, this action scenes were kind of like, getting stale, the same old, same old, same old. And you had, and at the same time, I think it was just good timing, as I mentioned, because there was no one available really to kind of, challenge him, because Jackie Chan kind of retired or semi-retired, and his film wasn't getting that good. Jet Li's kind of retired, so he was kind of like the default martial art guy, and he delivered. I'm not saying that he got famous because there was no one around. I think he just chose his time right. He chose his genre right. He chose his characters right. To portray the movies and end up being kick-ass. And then Ip Man came, which shot him to superstardom, and I think he felt his character. I think Donnie Yen really played that character well. It's almost kind of like when Jet Li played Wong Fei-hung, kind of fits that character. A Canton hero, martial arts. He plays that really straight, no nonsense, quiet speaking character. No overblown dramatic scenes. Didn't challenge him in the acting ways. He used, and Wing Chun, in today's society, Wing Chun's been using a lot of modern MMA as a part of the martial art routine. And of course, he brought the Ip Man to the forefront. And of course, the Ip Man's association with Bruce Lee. Speaking about Bruce Lee, we all know that Donnie Yen is a massive fan of Bruce Lee. That's why when you watch Donnie Yen does his martial arts, it's very reminiscent of Bruce Lee, because in lots of interviews he says that a lot of his martial arts he kind of replicate Bruce Lee, the way Bruce Lee starts and so on. Moving forward to some of his honorable mentions, I would say that films that I think are great, not amazing, but great. Say Seven Swords. He dabbled again back into some historical period dramas like Seven Swords, which I was pretty good. There's actually two versions. Be careful, because there's one that's been edited down, and there's the full version. I actually preferred the cut down version, because the full version, or the original version, I thought was about 20-25 minutes too long. Just watch the edited version, which should be just a little bit, about 2 hours. And then the Lost Blademan is based on Guan Yu, one of the warriors from Three Kingdom, which was good, but I felt I didn't think he fit that role, because Guan Yu was historically is pretty big, and I felt he was wrong cast for that film, but the martial arts were good. 14 Blades, I reckon that is one of Donnie Yen's best period dramas. I really like that. If you watched it, I think my issue is the martial arts great. He kept it very traditional. The only problem I felt was there was a couple of fights where, I won't spoil it, they used a bit of CG too much. That's the problem. And then, as I mentioned, Fist of the Legend. It's based on Chen Zhen, the same character of Bruce Lee's Fist of Legend. No, sorry, Fist of Fury. Because I can say he's a massive fan. Film wasn't the best, but you just watch it for the fight scene. The last fight scene was amazing. Just watch that. And as also watch Enter the Fat Dragon. It really shows. I think Donnie has improved, because you look at that film now. He's actually quite funny now. His comedic timing is improved. If you watch like his earlier films, he wasn't the funniest person, and a lot of his kind of like timing fell short. But if there's one thing about Donnie Yen, he always evolved himself. His martial arts evolved. Look at his martial arts now compared to, say, 20 years ago. Different. And just like his acting, it's improved a lot. A lot of drama, a lot more heavier. Then he can play now. Anyway, now I reckon he can play quite a lot of genres. So his acting improved. Would he be getting a Best Actor anytime soon? I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest with you. But I think that's why, in the last 10 years, he's become one of the top actors, top superstars in Asia. and now he's doing a lot of Western movies. And on the topic of his Western movies, I'm glad that he hasn't. He's kind of chose his role quite clever. I think he must have saw what happened to Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Chow Yun Fat, and they chose kind of wrong roles. They kind of messed up their Western chances really. And so Donnie Yen playing these kind of selective roles, I think they're doing good. I know he did a Star Wars film, Rogue One. Thought it was okay. I thought it was a bit of a waste of his talent myself, but hey, it's a Star Wars film. I think that was good for him, good for his profile. But I'm definitely looking forward to how he will be used in John Wick 4, because I know Keanu Reeves really respects martial arts and Donnie Yen, so I really hope they don't underuse him in John Wick. And I'm not even sure if he's playing a villain. I need to read up about it, really not a good guy. I hope that if he's playing a villain, he doesn't get killed too easy, because Donnie Yen is Donnie Yen, right? But anyway, thank you again for staying this long. Listen to me talk about geeky stuff and Donnie Yen. Let me know. Are you a fan of Donnie Yen? And what's your favorite film? Tell me your top 3. And are you looking forward to his role in John Wick 4? Well, anyway, please like, subscribe, and thank you for watching. And again, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are, and please stay safe. Goodbye.